ऑडियो से कनेक्ट नहीं करिएगा, सीधा शेयर।
मैम
यस सुस्मिता।
मैम हम लोग का प्रेजेंटेशन था आज, तो यामिनी और मानसी को कुछ काम था तो वो लोग बाहर जाना पड़ा DRCC, तो हम लोग नेक्स्ट दे देंगे प्रेजेंटेशन।
ओके, बाकी कैमरा ऑन करिए। डेली 2 प्रेजेंटेशन चाहिए, चाहे जो दे। क्या शेयर नहीं हो रहा क्या? वो ऊपर स्विच देना होगा। वहां से कैसे कर पाएंगे? शेयर का परमिशन हो रहा है? नहीं, कंप्यूटर ऑडियो से कनेक्ट नहीं करना है, वही सेम गलती हो जाएगा फिर। एक मिनट। अब यहाँ से करिए शेयर स्क्रीन, और जहाँ पे आपका है पीपीटी। Good. जो बोल रहे हैं वो खड़े रहेंगे। If you want the next participant.
Hello everybody. First of all, thank you for joining me and my partner here in this presentation. A very cheerful good morning to respected ma'am and my dear friends. Today I am Sanjit.
वेटिंग जा रहा है यहाँ पे, जस्ट एडमिट या तो यहाँ ही खड़ी रही।
Today I am Sanjana and my partner Kriti here talk to you about Consumer Protection Act. Consumer protection is one of the main laws that provide protection to consumer in India. So today first introduction of law, because the Consumer Protection Act is one of the main law. Law means rule made by the authority for the proper regulation of community, society, or for correct conduct in life. Law is different from an act. It is an act of parliament, a statute commonly called a law. Enacted as primary legislation by national or subnational parliament, it sets out the main objective which the legislation intended to achieve. For example, there are many laws in India passes, that is Contract Act, Consumer Protection Act, etc. What is consumer? Consumer refers to any individual or households that use goods and services generated within the economy. Consumer is defined as someone who acquires goods or services for different use or ownership rather than resell or for use in production and manufacturing. For example, when your father buys an apple, you consume them. Your father is as well as yourself as treated as consumer. The same thing applies to hiring a front taxi to go to your school. Need for Consumer Protection Act in era of free competition where consumer is a king. So I will explain why consumer is known as the king of market, because as customer decides whether want to speed or not. Secondly, but customer can choose any product from any the options available. After the sale, customer king or queen. Now it is decided the one company to another. Is consumer really the king? Yes, government has also passed the law protection of any consumer, which reveals the important consumer. So in my opinion, which reveals is the consumer really the king of India? Customer is really king, as customer will not change its demand, but the company has also its product according to the taste of the customers. Concept of consumer protection. Consumer protection means safeguarding in the interest of consumers. In other words, it refers to the measures and the protection of consumers in the form unscrupulous, means being that is not fair in prices and any other activities. It refers to the measure adopting the protection of consumer from malpractices by the business and to provide them speedy redressal of their grievances. History of Consumer Protection Act. The Act was passed in Lok Sabha on 9th December 1986 and it came into 1st July 1987. Rajya Sabha passed on 10th December 1986 and SSC President of India on 24th December 1986 and was published in the Gazette on 26th December 1986. Here it being said in this picture, be alert and ensure your rights as a consumer. Means right to be informed about the quality, quantity, potency, and the purity standard and price of goods as to protect the consumer against unfair trade practices. And the consumer should insist on getting all the information about the product or services or for making a choice of a nation. This campaign says that Jago Grahak Jago, means wake up consumer, be aware. It is a consumer awareness program that has set up by the Department of Consumer Affairs to create consumer awareness through advertisement, audio, and visual campaigns and consumers. Objects of this Act: better protection of end consumer. The Act seeks to provide for better protection of interests of consumer. For this purpose, Act makes provision for the establishment of consumer council and other authorities for the settlement of consumer disputes and for matters connected therewith. The second one is protection of rights of consumers. The Act seeks inter alia to perform and protect the right of consumers, such as the right to be protected against marketing or goods which are hazardous to life and property, the right to be informed about quality, quantity, potency, purity standard, and price of goods and services, protect the consumer against unfair trade practices, the right to be assured whatever possible access to goods and services competitions, the right to be heard to be assured that consumer interest will receive due considerable appropriate forum, the right to seek redressal against unfair trade practices or restrictive trade practices or the exploitation of consumers, and right to consumer education, consumer protected councils. The above objects are sought to be protected by the consumer protection councils established at the central and state level to ensure a better quality living by improving the quality of in our consumer products at goods and services. Now let's move on the next topic: importance of consumer protection. Unorganized consumer. The first point is unorganized consumer. In developing countries like India, consumers are not organized. There are very few consumer organizations which are working to protect interests of consumers. Consumer protection provides powers and rights to these organizations, as this organization can file on behalf of a consumer. Consumer ignorance. It spreads awareness so that consumer can know about the various redressal agencies which they are appropriate to protect their interests. Widespread exploitation of consumers means there is a lot of exploitation of consumer businessmen who use various trade practices to cheat and exploit their consumers. Businessman uses society's resources. Businessman uses the resources of society they earned supplying goods and services to member of society. They must use these resources for the benefits of consumer. Social responsibility. A businessman has social obligation towards customers. It is responsibility of businessman to provide goods at reasonable prices. Consumer protection guide businessman to provide social responsibilities. Then my next topic is rights of consumer. What is the rights? First, I will explain. Rights are legal, social, ethical principles of freedom entitlement. Why is it important to have a rights? Human rights are very important because no one should be abused or discriminated against, and because everyone should have chance to develop their talents. The Consumer Protection Act 1986 was passed by both the houses of parliament and it is received. First point, right to safety. I will explain. Right to safety means to be protected against the marketing of goods or various hazardous life. Before buying, consumer can consume insist of the quality guarantee of goods. They should kindly purchase a certified product like ISI or EGMARK. Then I will explain what is ISI and EGMARK. Government of India has created some standards for almost every one product to protect the economic interest of all the citizens. EGMARK is uses for agriculture. Agriculture products, and ISI is used for electric power. There are some examples of standards in our mark. Then right to information, to be protected against dishonest or misleading advertisement of, and the right to be given facts and information needed to be informed of satisfaction. Right to choice. Right to choice means to choose the products at competitive price within an assurance of satisfaction quality. Right to representation, to express consumer interest in the making of exhausted government policies. Right to seek redress, to be compensated for misprintation, shoddy goods, or unsatisfactory services. Right to consumer education means acquire the knowledge and skill necessary to be consumer, and right to basic needs which guarantee survival, adequate food, clothing, shelter, and education and sanitation. Right to health environment, to live and work in an environment which is neither thereafter nor dangerous and which permits life of dignity and well-being. So I over to my partner, Preeti. Thank you, Sajna, for passing me.
The topic is comparison between the Consumer Protection Act 1986 and the Consumer Protection Act 2019. There are some difference between. There are the major difference I will explain it. The Consumer Protection Act 1986, which was established by the consumer law, which was passed by the both the houses of parliament, and the Consumer Protection Act 2019 was established by CCPA. Under the Consumer Protection 1986. We can complain in consumer court where the seller works, but now we can complain in consumer court where the complainant works. Under the Consumer Protection Act 1986, there is no legal provision is provided, but now the Consumer Protection Act 2019 is provided some legal protection through the mediation, where the mediation means the third person who dispute or settle the problem. There are some conditions to complain in a court according to the Consumer Protection Act 1986. In a district court, we can complain if consumer consume goods and services up to 1 lakh, then he can complain a file. But now it is exist from 1 lakh. In a state level, if consumer can purchase goods and services up to 1 crore, then it can be filed. But now it is exist from 1 crore. In national level, consumer can consume goods and services more than 1 crore, then it can be complain or file in a consumer court. But it is exist from the 10 crore. There is one exception in that. All the condition is that a person, if a person consume goods and services for its use itself, then it is considered as a consumer, and then that situation he can complain in file in district level, state level, and national level. But if a person consume goods and services for the purpose of resale, in that situation it is considered as retailer, and that situation they cannot be sued file in a district court, a state court, or national court. So the next topic will be explained by my partner. I over to you.
Thank you, Priti. I will continue here. Filing a complaint. Some important Consumer Protection Act. Who is a consumer? One consumer is a one who buys goods and services for some value. When or under what circumstances it can be filled? The complaint can be filled by traders and manufacturers if goods are defective. Within what periods the complaint can be filled? The complaint must be filled within 3 months or purchase, and if some testing of goods is required, then within 5 months. Now, my next topic is Needs of Consumer Protection Act. The necessity of adopting measures, the interest of consumer arises due to the helpless position to the consumer. Social responsibility. It is the moral responsibility of the businessman to serve interests of consumers. Keeping with the principles, it is the duty of producers and traders to provide their right quality goods at fair prices to the consumers. Increasing awareness, the consumers are becoming more mature and conscious of their rights against to be by business. There are many consumer organizations and associations who make build consumer awareness. Consumer satisfaction. Father of nation Mahatma Gandhi had once given a call to manufacturers and traders that the consumer as a god. Consumer satisfaction is the key to success of business. Hence, they should take every step to serve the interests of consumers by providing them quality and quantity responsible for survival and growth of business. The business has to serve consumer interests for their own survival and growth. On account of globalization and increase the competition, any business organization which includes indulges in malpractice, ultimate consumers shall find it difficult to continue. Principle of trusteeship: resources are supplied by the society. They are merely the trustees of the resources and they should use the resources effectively and for the benefits of society, which includes the consumer. So I pass over the Preeti.
Thank you, Sajna. The topic is three-tier consumer. First of all, question arises that why the need of three-tier consumer? The reason is behind that to secure the Consumer Protection Act and to protect the consumer right. Three-tier is divided into three-level: district form, state form, and national form. One by one, I explain it. District form is also known as consumer dispute redressal. It is mentioned under the district code under section 9A. So it is mentioned the district code is under section 9A of the Consumer Protection Act 1986. It is the redressal which the consumer problem at a district level. The next topic is composition of a district farm. Composition of a district farm. There are mainly 3 persons in district farm. One is others member. Their qualification is of president, that a person who became as president who qualified in the district become a president of the district farm. And the others member, apart from the president, there are 2 others member in a district firm. One must have be woman, and their qualification is that he is much less than 36 years age, and he and she passes from the authorized university, and he and she has a work experience at least 10 hours in a commerce field, in an economics field, or in an industry, etc. Jurisdiction of the district firm is when the consumer file in a district firm. The district when consumer consume goods and services up to one lakh, they can be complaint filed in a district court. The next topic is who can complain in the district farm. A consumer who can consume goods and services, they can also be liable for the complaint filed in a district court. And second is any organized consumer association. But exception is that any organization which can complain or file in district court, he has established under the Consumer Act 1986, and the last is central or state government. The state form is also known as Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. It is mentioned under the state. It is mentioned under the state section 90 of the Consumer Protection Act 1986. It is redressal agency with deal with the consumer problem at a state level. Composition of the member of a state farm. There are also 3 members in a state farm. One is other member. Their qualification of president is that a person who become a president, who working in a high court. So 35 years he and she passes from a organized university, and he and she has a degree of 10 years in commerce field, industry field, and economics field. The next topic is a national form. Again, national form is known as National Commission Consumer Dispute Redressal. It is mentioned under in the country section 9C. It is a redressal agency which deal with the consumer problem at a national level. And the composition of a national firm member, there are 5 members in a national firm. One is president and other is 4 members. A person who become a president in a national firm which was which was working in a Supreme Court, and the qualification of others member that one member in 4 members, one must have a woman, and their qualification is that he or she is must at the age of 35 years, and he or she passes from a authorized university, and he and she is must have at least 10 years degree in a field of commerce industry, and at least 10 years experience in commerce field, industry field, and accountancy. And the disqualification disqualification of national firm members. If a person declared unsounded mind, then it is disqualified from the national firm, and if a person is insolvent, in that situation he also disqualified from national firm. And another reason is that if a person has been removed from the government service, then in that situation he can also be disqualified from the national firm. Thank you for giving me thank you for listening us.
Good.
Now, we can here continue. We had read this news on Daily Hunt News, so we thought that there is a good example for Consumer Protection Act. So I want to represent about daily Sensodyne misleading advertisement. Consumer body slaps rupees 10 lakh penalty on Sensodyne misleading advertisement. New Delhi, March 22. The Central Consumer Protection Act Authority, that is CCPA, said on Tuesday it is said imposed 10 lakh penalty and ordered discontinuation of advertisement of Sensodyne products which make the claim recommendation by dentists worldwide and world number 1 sensitivity toothpaste. The consumer body has termed these claims made in Sensodyne product as misleading. CCPA has ordered discontinuation of advertisement of Sensodyne products which advertisement of make the claims recommended by dentists worldwide and world number 1 sensitivity toothpaste within 7 days, and directed payment of penalty rupees 10 lakh according to a statement of released by the Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution. Also, advertisements which show endorsement by foreign dentists have been ordered to be discontinued as per the earlier order passed by CCPA. The statement said CCPA had initiated sub moto action against advertisement of Sensodyne products on various platforms, including television, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, showing dentists practicing outside India, endorsing the use of Sensodyne products, namely Sensodyne Rapid Relief and Sensodyne Fresh Gel for protection against teeth sensitivity and claims. After examination of the response submitted by the company, CCPA observed that the 2 market surveys submitted by the company in support of its claims, recommendation by dentists worldwide number 1, sensitivity toothpaste made in the advertisement were conducted only with the dentist in India. So, conclusively, the Consumer Protection Act 2019, when compared with the 1986 Act, shows that it provided for greater protection of consumer interests, taking into contraction of the current age of digitization. So thank you, ma'am, and my dear friends.
19 में comparison थी कहाँ पे? Okay. आप लोगों में बस एक प्रॉब्लम नजर आया, कॉन्फिडेंस तो ठीक था, लेकिन आई कांटेक्ट क्यों नहीं बना रहे थे आप? अरे भाई अयुवराज, मतलब वेट करते हैं कब डांट होगी। नजर का भी थोड़ा रहना चाहिए, एक बार देख रहे हैं मतलब प्रॉब्लम हो रहा है, डिस्ट्रक्शन हो रहा है। क्या वायरस हुआ क्या?
नो मैम, वो एंटीवायरस खत्म हो गया।
ओके, आई कांटेक्ट बनाइए, बस ये प्रॉब्लम था, बाकी कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर था। अच्छा बोले, लेकिन जब बोलेंगे, जब ये तब पता चलता है कि नर्वस है। At the time of presentation, it was not, मतलब we were not feeling that she was nervous. ना कहीं आप शटर भी नहीं किए, हाँ, कहीं भी आप अकलाए भी नहीं, डरे भी नहीं, रुके भी नहीं. So it was good. The only thing you need to improve is eye contact. नहीं, कई बार क्या होता है कि अगर मान लीजिए चलिए लोगों के आंख में देखने में प्रॉब्लम है ना, तो दीवार की तरफ देखिए। ऑडियंस है सबसे लास्ट वाला, जो कहीं जहाँ भी आप प्रेजेंटेशन देंगे कहीं तो होगा छोर, वहीं देखिए, तो क्या फीलिंग आएगा। लार्ज ऑडियंस में ऐसा इल्यूजन होता है कि यू आर लुकिंग टुवर्ड्स देम। जैसे आप उधर देखेंगे ना, आगे वाले को तो पक्का लगेगा कि आप सबको देख के बात कर रहे हैं, ठीक है, अगर आंख में देखने में प्रॉब्लम है तो। लेकिन ये स्टार्टिंग स्टेप, अब ये हैबिट मत बना लीजिएगा, ये फर्स्ट स्टेप है। अगर आपको आंख में देखने में प्रॉब्लम है तो सबसे पीछे देखिए, दीवार की तरफ देखिए, ग्रेजुअली आप कर पाएंगे। चेहरा देखना ही तो है, चेहरा तो देखना है। बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ प्रैक्टिस, ग्रेजुअली हो जाएगा, ठीक है। द ओनली वे टू कंट्रोल और टू हैव अ ग्रिप ऑन ऑडियंस इज योर कंटेंट डिलीवरी, ठीक है। अगर आपको ऑडियंस का ग्रिप चाहिए, वो आप चाहते हैं कि लोग आपको सुने, द ओनली थिंग इज आप तो डांट मार के कर सकते हैं, सिर्फ आप अपने कंटेंट, अपने बॉडी लैंग्वेज, बस यही सारा चीज है जिससे आप सबका ग्रिप अपने ऊपर डाल सकते हैं, आप सबका अटेंशन सीख कर सकते हैं, ठीक है। किसी के ऊपर आप ऑब्वियसली मतलब क्या डंडा दे करके, पुलिस तो है नहीं हम लोग जो आपसे डर जाएंगे, उल्टा वही लोग चढ़ जाएंगे, है ना। तो वही चीज है, सिर्फ अपना कॉन्फिडेंट बॉडी लैंग्वेज रखिए। अंडरस्टूड, बैठ जाइए। नेक्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन में उनको सी दिस, एक तो आई कांटेक्ट, दूसरा कॉन्फिडेंट बॉडी लैंग्वेज। आप थे कॉन्फिडेंट लेकिन बॉडी लैंग्वेज से दिख नहीं रहा, ठीक है। जो हाँ थोड़ा बहुत जो नर्वसनेस था बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ प्रैक्टिस। आप लोगों का तो नजारा कमाल है भाई, सब कैमरा ऑफ करके क्यों बैठे हुए हैं? मौके का फायदा उठा लिए।
मैम ट्रेन में आप मेरा रोल नंबर बना दीजिएगा ना, 39।
जी जी अदिति, सबसे पहले आपका रोल नंबर ही बना देते हैं। और अब नेक्स्ट उपहार और संकेत, आप लोगों को कितना टाइम लगेगा, क्या टॉपिक है आपका?
मैम जॉइंट स्टॉक कंपनी।
अच्छा, इसमें तो टाइम लगेगा, ये हम लोग कल करते हैं, ठीक है। और कौन ग्रुप? सुस्मिता, अगर कल टाइम बचा तो कल ठीक है, नहीं तो फिर क्लासरूम में क्यों नहीं सब लोग करते हैं भाई? ट्राई जो
ऑफलाइन
क्लास, हाँ जो आ सकते हैं क्लास, ट्राई किया के करें, फायदा आपको मिलेगा। एक्सपेक्टेशन था 2 का, लेकिन हो रहा है 1, तो कम से कम ये कोशिश करिए कि अपने अंदर का डर वगैरह भगा पाए। आप देखिएगा, आप सेकेंड राउंड को भी प्रेजेंटेशन दीजिएगा, जो फर्स्ट टाइम आप जो फील किए हैं वो तो कतई फील नहीं करिए। सेकेंड टाइम जब आप करेंगे नर्वसनेस इतना फील नहीं होगा जितना फर्स्ट टाइम फील होता है। अब नहीं होंगे, आज फर्स्ट था ना आपका, फर्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन था ना आपका, आज नर्वस। अब तो आपको अकेले भी बोलना है, तो अकेले भी बोल पाएंगे आप, ऑलमोस्ट अकेले ही बोलना हुआ ये तो। आप अकेले परफॉर्म किया, आप अकेले परफॉर्म किए। आपकी इंडिविजुअल बेसिस पे जज किया जा रहा है, ये तो सिर्फ इल्यूजन है दिमाग का कि पार्टनर की वजह से परफॉर्मेंस खराब हो गया। हाँ, सीएसआर क्या है, मैम पार्टनर चेंज कर दीजिए तो हम आंसर दे देंगे, ये कोई बहाना हुआ? आपके इंडिविजुअल बेसिस पे जज किया जा रहा है। हाँ, तो आंसर तो किसी के लिए, सबके लिए आंसर है ये एक बहाना है जो आप अपने दिमाग में बैठा के रखे।
अगर मैं आपसे कोई क्वेश्चन पूछूं, आपका नाम क्या है युवराज? हाँ, मैं पार्टनर चेंज कर दीजिए तब नाम बता पाएंगे आप। अगर CSR का कॉन्सेप्ट क्लियर होता तो पार्टनर कोई भी रहे फर्क पड़ता। ऐसा नहीं कि आप एक्स्ट्रा चीज ऐड नहीं कर सकते, जरूर ऐड करिए, लेकिन आपको एक्सप्लेन करने का तो कैपेसिटी होना चाहिए ना। लाइक आप मॉडल वगैरह इंट्रोड्यूस किए CSR में, वेरी गुड, एक्स्ट्रा नॉलेज होना चाहिए, आप एक्सप्लोर करिए, मैं बोलती हूँ एक्स्ट्रा लाइए, लेकिन आप खुद नहीं समझ रहे हैं उसको और वो आप प्रेजेंटेशन में दिखा रहे हैं और खुद एक्सप्लेन नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, तब तो फिर इट्स बेटर कि आप कंसाइज हो जाइए, जितना बताया गया है उतना ही करिए। लेकिन अगर आप बता पा रहे हैं तो सब कुछ आप एक्सप्लोर करिए, सब कुछ प्रेजेंटेशन में डालिए। द ओनली थिंग इज प्रेजेंटेशन अच्छा हो, आप एक्सप्लेन कर पाए। ठीक है, समझ आया युवराज? समझ आया कि नहीं? रोल 1 2
यस मैम।
3 2 नहीं है 3। ये स्विच ऑफ कर दो प्रोजेक्टर। छट्टू कुमार, आप ही बोले ना। टैलेंट है आप लोगों में। रोल 3 नहीं है, 4 5 स्वप्निल 6 7 8 9 10 11 12
Yes, ma'am. 12.
13 13 14 15। अच्छा, आज आप क्लास में आए? मेरे ख्याल से सिर्फ नाम ही दिखता था, चेहरा फर्स्ट टाइम देख रही हूँ शायद। 16 17
Yes, ma'am.
18
Present, ma'am.
19
Present, ma'am.
20
Yes, ma'am.
21 22 23 24
22.
24 25 26 27
Yes, ma'am.
28 29
Present, ma'am.
Come on, 29
Yes, ma'am.
30 31 32 33 34 35
Present, ma'am.
36 37
Yes, ma'am.
38 39
Yes, ma'am.
39।
39.
ट्रेन से नेटवर्क गया नहीं अभी तक अदिति? ट्रेन पे आपका अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं।
मैम प्लेटफॉर्म पे है।
ठीक है, 40 41 42 43
Yes, ma'am.
44
Yes, ma'am.
45 46 47 48 49 50
Yes, ma'am.
51
Yes, ma'am.
52 53 54 50 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 ऑनलाइन 16 है। श्रुति रंजन है क्या?
Yes, ma'am.
और निक्की भी है?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you. See you next class.